Lyra's shuttle landed with a soft hum on the outskirts of the Interstellar Academy. The sprawling complex gleamed under the twin suns of the planet, reflecting light in every direction. Students of every shape, size, and species were already moving about, some hovering, some walking, some gliding in strange, elegant ways. Yet, despite the impressive display of alien abilities, Lyra felt calm. She had grown up on Vornax, a planet labeled a tiny death world by galactic standards. Few believed anything good could come from it, and many thought its inhabitants weak. She adjusted her simple uniform, worn and patched from years of survival on Vornax. The aliens around her had flashy uniforms, some glowing faintly with energy, some embroidered with symbols that indicated their ranks and accomplishments. Lyra, however, carried only a small satchel and a calm confidence. Within it, her most precious companion slept, her pet beast, Raxor. The creature was hidden in a compact, reinforced containment pod, but its soft breathing echoed faintly. Even in hiding, Lyra felt its presence as a comforting weight. "Transfer student Lyra Vornax," a voice announced. A hovering recorder scanned her from head to toe. Lyra nodded politely, her dark eyes steady. Some students nearby snickered, whispering in languages she did not fully understand. "Did you hear? She's from a death world," one alien said, his multifaceted eyes gleaming with amusement. "Tiny, useless place. She must be weak. Maybe she brought some primitive pet." Another added, smirking. Lyra ignored them. She had learned long ago that attention could be dangerous and patience was a strength. Survival on Vornax had taught her that. A flicker of movement from her satchel reminded her of Raxor. The beast would protect her if she needed it, but she hoped she would not have to reveal it yet. The academy instructor, a tall silver-skinned alien named Professor Storym, motioned for her to follow. Lyra moved silently through the hallways, her boots barely making a sound on the smooth floor. Everywhere she looked, alien students stared curiously at her, whispering to each other. She could feel their assumptions. A human from a death world could not compete, could not survive, could not excel. During orientation, Professor Storym explained the rules and curriculum of the academy. Combat, strategy, diplomacy, survival. Every field was covered. Humans had once been respected in the galaxy for their resilience and intelligence. But now, many of the older species considered them unpredictable and weak. Lyra listened carefully, absorbing every detail. After the lecture, students were grouped into teams for the first exercise. Lyra found herself paired with 3 alien classmates. One, a tall serpentine creature with iridescent scales, sneered at her. Another, a small floating sphere of pure energy, buzzed around her nervously. The third, a rock-like being with glowing eyes, seemed indifferent. "You'll find this very difficult," the serpentine one said with a sharp hiss. "Your species does not survive long in hostile conditions. You might as well stay out of the way." Lyra smiled faintly, not out of amusement but as a signal that she had heard and understood. She had faced far worse than this back home. "We'll see," she said softly. The first exercise was simple in appearance. Navigate a hazardous terrain and retrieve a small energy crystal. The obstacles were designed to test agility, strength, and intelligence. The alien students moved with ease, gliding or leaping over obstacles, barely touching the ground. Lyra, however, slowed down and observed. Her eyes scanned for patterns in the environment. Spiked vines that seemed deadly were spaced in a rhythm. Unstable rocks could be triggered to fall if pressed incorrectly. Lyra calculated quickly. Her movements were precise, almost cautious, but extremely effective. When the others struggled with a trap, she avoided it entirely. As they neared the crystal, a sudden rumble shook the ground. Lyra's heart did not race, but she pressed her hand to her satchel. Raxor, sensing potential danger, growled softly from inside. The alien students froze, unsure of the source of the sound. A small tremor shook a nearby ledge, causing the energy crystal to dangle dangerously. Lyra's quick thinking saved it. She extended a grappling device and pulled the crystal safely, all while avoiding falling debris. The aliens stared at her with wide eyes, not out of admiration yet, but with surprise. They had underestimated a human from a tiny death world, and for the first time they saw the edge of her abilities. By the time they returned to the main hall, whispers had spread. "She is clever," one of the students muttered. "Clever but weak. Let's see how she handles the next challenge." Lyra ignored the whispers and focused on Raxor. The pod was now calm, its growls quiet. She patted it lightly. "Good," she whispered. Patience. We wait. The bond between them was unspoken but strong. Raxor was not just a pet. It was a partner, a protector, and a symbol of her homeworld's resilience. The day ended with more orientation and tours. Lyra observed alien technology, noting its strengths and weaknesses. Many devices were powerful but rigid. On Vornax, survival required adaptability. Humans were not the strongest or the fastest, but ingenuity, strategy, and unpredictability were their greatest weapons. Lyra smiled to herself. Soon others would understand. That evening, in the quiet of her dorm, Lyra opened Raxor's containment pod. The beast stretched, revealing a sleek, muscular form covered in subtle scales and fur. Its eyes glowed faintly, intelligent and aware. "You are patient," Lyra said softly. "Good, they will learn. But not tonight. Tonight we rest." Raxor nudged her gently, almost in agreement. Outside, the twin suns were setting, casting long shadows over the academy. In the distance, she could see alien patrols moving, unaware of the quiet human and her extraordinary companion. They saw only a quiet girl from a tiny death world, but Lyra knew the truth. Her world had survived horrors the galaxy could not imagine, and she carried that legacy in every step, in every breath, in Raxor's quiet growl. As Lyra lay down to rest, her mind replayed the day. She remembered the sneers, the doubts, the quiet amazement in the eyes of some students. She did not feel pride yet. She had only begun. The real challenges would come soon. Tests of combat, strategy, and cunning that would push every student to their limits. But Lyra was ready. Not because she was stronger or faster, but because she had survived death worlds, tamed a beast, and understood the value of patience, observation, and timing. The galaxy might mock her, but she would prove that humans were more than anyone expected. Outside her window, stars began to twinkle in the growing darkness. Somewhere among them were threats and wonders beyond imagination. But Lyra and Raxor were ready. Together they were a force that could not be ignored. And somewhere, deep inside the academy, whispers of the tiny death world girl began to spread. Not all of them respectful yet, but all of them curious. Lyra smiled faintly as she drifted into sleep. Tomorrow would be the first true test. And tomorrow the galaxy would begin to see the strength of a human from Vornax. The morning sun bathed the academy grounds in gold and silver light. Lyra tightened her boots and checked her satchel, where Raxor's containment pod rested quietly. Today was the first official combat training exercise, designed to test students' agility, strategy, and teamwork. For many aliens, this was a chance to show off their natural abilities. For Lyra, it was another test of her wits, patience, and adaptability. Today, "You will navigate the hazard zone," Professor Storym announced, his voice echoing across the wide training grounds. "Retrieve the central energy core and return it to your starting point. Avoid hazards and remember, teamwork is rewarded." Aliens of all shapes and sizes surged forward. Serpentine creatures slithered over obstacles with smooth precision. Flying species hovered, darting through the air, while rock-like beings moved steadily but with remarkable endurance. All eyes, however, were on Lyra, the human from the so-called tiny death world. Many whispered and laughed quietly. "She won't last a minute," one alien said. "Humans are soft. They cannot survive real hazards." Lyra's dark eyes swept across the terrain. The hazard zone was a mix of unstable platforms, thorned vines, swinging barriers, and pools of strange liquid. On her world, every step could be fatal, so her mind naturally scanned for patterns. She noticed the timing of the swinging barriers, the gaps in the vines, and the brittle edges of the floating platforms. Her team approached the first obstacle, a wide chasm with a series of moving platforms. The serpentine alien leapt gracefully, landing on the far side without effort. Lyra studied the rhythm of the platforms. Timing was everything. She sprinted, jumped, and landed with perfect balance. Her movements were not flashy but precise, conserving energy while avoiding danger. Impressive. The floating sphere buzzed nervously, watching her. "I did not expect that." Lyra offered a faint smile but kept moving. The next challenge was a patch of spiked vines that could snap shut with pressure, Many students attempted to dash through, only to get caught or stumble. Lyra slowed slightly, studying the vines. She leapt at the right moment, twisting mid-air to avoid the snapping spikes. Her teammates began to follow her lead, realizing her strategy was effective. Meanwhile, Raxor, sensing danger, stirred slightly in its pod. Lyra felt its low hum of energy and placed a hand gently on the containment surface. "Patience," she whispered. "We are fine." The beast relaxed again, but Lyra knew it was always alert. On Vornax, even a small threat could become deadly in seconds. As they neared the center of the hazard zone, a sudden tremor shook the ground. A section of the platforms collapsed, sending several students into panic. The serpentine alien hissed, struggling to recover balance. Lyra did not flinch. She extended a small grappling device from her satchel, securing a line to a stable beam. Carefully, she pulled herself and her closest teammate across. The energy core was now visible, glowing softly in the center of the zone. The area was surrounded by mechanical sentinels, programmed to challenge the students with beams and nets. The aliens attempted to deactivate the sentinels with brute force, but the mechanisms were too advanced. Lyra observed silently. On Vornax, survival depended on observation and clever problem-solving, not strength alone. She noticed a pattern. The sentinels moved in a repeating sequence, leaving gaps between their attacks. Timing her movements carefully, Lyra dashed forward, dodging beams and avoiding nets. She reached the energy core and secured it in her satchel. The aliens stared, mouths agape. A human had outsmarted the mechanical guards with precision and strategy, not brute strength. The floating sphere buzzed in awe. "How?" it whispered. Lyra did not answer. She focused on returning safely. The path back was more dangerous than before, as the sentinels now reacted to movement. One of the serpentine students lunged recklessly and was caught by a net, flailing in surprise. Lyra extended a grappling line and pulled him free, earning a startled look from the serpentine creature. Suddenly, a loud growl echoed from the containment pod. Raxor stirred, agitated by the danger nearby. Lyra's heart did not race, but she pressed a hand against the pod. "Wait," she murmured. "Do not act yet." The growl subsided, and the pod remained stable. It was a reminder that even hidden, her companion was powerful and aware. Reaching the final section, a series of swinging pendulums blocked the exit. Many students hesitated, unsure of the timing. Lyra's eyes narrowed. She counted the swings, noting the pattern. With a swift motion, she sprinted forward, leaping and twisting to avoid the pendulums. The energy core remained secure in her satchel. Her team followed, inspired by her calm, precise movements. For the first time, the aliens began to see humans differently. Not weak, not fragile, but clever, adaptable, and fearless in their own way. When Lyra finally crossed the finish line, Professor Storym raised his hands. "Remarkable," he said, scanning the results. "Lyra Vornax has completed the course with exceptional strategy and minimal errors. This is a fine example of human adaptability." The serpentine alien, still panting from exertion, could not hide his shock. She survived everything with planning," he muttered. The floating sphere buzzed repeatedly, clearly processing the unexpected outcome. Lyra remained calm, lowering her satchel slightly. "It's about observation and timing," she said simply. "Not speed or strength alone." The day continued with more exercises, each designed to test different abilities. Lyra's methods impressed some and unsettled others. She did not seek attention or praise. Every move was calculated, every choice deliberate. Her pet beast, though hidden, was a constant presence, reminding her that raw strength could always be called upon if necessary. By afternoon, rumors of her performance had spread across the academy grounds. Some students whispered nervously about the human girl from the tiny DEATHWORLD. Others began to speculate. Perhaps humans were not as weak as they had been told. During a short break, Lyra found a quiet corner. She opened Raxor's pod, and the beast stretched, muscles rippling under its smooth fur and scales. Its intelligent eyes blinked at her. "You did well," Lyra whispered, "but tomorrow will be harder." Raxor nudged her hand gently, a silent agreement. They had only begun, and the challenges ahead would be far more dangerous than today. As evening approached, the academy shimmered under the twin suns' fading light. Lyra walked among her peers, unnoticed by most but observed closely by a few. The aliens who had mocked her in the morning now looked at her differently. Some were wary, some curious, and a few even cautious. Lyra did not celebrate. She knew the real test was not in a single course or a single exercise. The galaxy did not respect strength alone. It respected intelligence, adaptability, courage, and the ability to survive where others would fail. Humans had all of these qualities, even if the older species often overlooked them. Back in her dorm, Lyra sat beside Raxor, planning for the next day. She studied maps of the academy grounds, noting patterns and possible obstacles. Survival was a game of preparation and perception, and she was determined to stay ahead. Outside, stars began to twinkle, and distant planets shimmered faintly. Somewhere among them were dangers and wonders far beyond the academy, but Lyra was ready, and Raxor was always at her side. Together they would face whatever came next, and show the galaxy that humans from even the smallest, most underestimated worlds were forces not to be ignored. And somewhere, whispers began to spread among the alien students. The human girl had survived the hazard zone. She had done more than survive, she had outsmarted them. And soon, they would all learn that underestimating humans was a mistake they could never afford to repeat. Lyra smiled faintly, a quiet determination in her eyes. The real challenge had only begun. The academy's halls were filled with a low hum of conversation as students prepared for the next exercise, a simulation designed to test intelligence, reflexes, and teamwork. The instructors had promised a challenging scenario that would push every student to their limits. Lyra walked calmly through the corridors, her satchel resting lightly on her shoulder. Raxor's containment pod, as always, remained quiet and secure, though the faint vibrations of its energy thrummed beneath her touch. Her alien classmates were unusually excited. Some sneered openly, muttering about how the human girl would fail again. The serpentine alien from the first exercise hissed at her as they passed. "Do you really think you can survive this? Humans are fragile. One mistake and you're finished." Lyra did not answer. She had learned long ago that words were cheap and action was everything. The simulation chamber was massive, a dome that projected virtual terrain with remarkable realism. Today's exercise was an urban survival challenge. Students had to navigate a cityscape filled with collapsing structures, rogue robots, and unpredictable environmental hazards. The goal was simple: reach the central control tower and deactivate the city's defense system. Simple, but lethal if mistakes were made. The simulation began and alarms rang through the chamber. Aliens surged forward with confidence, relying on their natural abilities to dash, fly, or leap over obstacles. Lyra stepped forward slowly, observing patterns, noting weaknesses, and measuring distances. Every movement of the simulated environment had a rhythm, a logic she could exploit. Early in the simulation, a bridge collapsed beneath the serpentine alien. He flailed, barely catching the edge while Lyra assessed the structure quickly. A few precise calculations later, she anchored her grappling device to a stable beam and crossed safely. The floating sphere buzzed nervously beside her. How do you always know where to step?" it asked. "It's not luck," Lyra said calmly. "It's observation and timing. The world has patterns if you watch carefully." The next challenge came swiftly. A group of drones swooped in, aiming to block her path. The alien students panicked, firing energy blasts indiscriminately, triggering a chain reaction that destabilized nearby buildings. Lyra took a step back, noting the drones' repetitive movement and weak points. She fired a controlled energy pulse, disabling them without causing further collapse. Her teammates watched in disbelief. Suddenly, the simulation began to behave strangely. The cityscape flickered and new threats appeared. Fires that weren't programmed, falling debris in impossible patterns. Some students screamed, caught off guard by the unexpected danger. Lyra's heart did not race, but she felt Raxor stir within its pod. The beast sensed potential danger. Lyra kept moving, using her observations to navigate safely. But the other students grew reckless, panicking under pressure. One attempted to leap across a crumbling rooftop and fell into a virtual pit. Another triggered a simulated gas leak that threatened to engulf half the training area. Chaos spread quickly, and the instructors struggled to maintain control. Lyra saw the problem clearly. The simulation had been tampered with. Someone had escalated the challenge to humiliation. Her alien classmates, fueled by jealousy and doubt, had pushed the system beyond its intended limits. Lyra did not panic. She pressed a hand to Raxor's containment pod, feeling the low, warning hum of its energy. "Not yet," she whispered. "I can handle this." Raxor's response was subtle. Its tail shifted slightly inside the pod, and its eyes glowed faintly through the containment shield. It was aware, alert, and ready to act if Lyra called. Lyra's calm focus allowed her to see solutions that others missed. She noted that some debris could be used as temporary shields, while other obstacles could be triggered to clear paths. With precise timing, she navigated the unstable city, helping her closest teammates avoid injury. Each calculated move demonstrated humans' ability to adapt under pressure. As she neared the central tower, a massive simulated drone hovered above, its energy beams threatening to block her path entirely. The serpentine alien attempted a reckless attack, but Lyra anticipated the drone's movements. She directed her grappling device toward a support beam, swinging safely past the drone's attacks and reaching the tower controls. With a few calculated actions, she deactivated the city's defense system. The simulation stabilized, the fires disappeared, and the collapsing structures froze in place. Lyra's teammates stared at her, some in awe, some in disbelief. Professor Thorym's voice echoed across the chamber. "Remarkable. Despite unexpected complications, Lyra Vornax has completed the simulation flawlessly, demonstrating intelligence, adaptability, and calm under pressure." The serpentine alien glared, unable to hide his frustration. "She cheated," he hissed. "No human could do this without—" Lyra stepped forward, her voice steady. "I did not cheat. I observed, I adapted, and I acted carefully. That is all humans do on our world. We survive because we think, not because we are the strongest." Whispers rippled through the other students. Some were shocked at her skill. Others, previously mocking her, began to reconsider their assumptions about humans. As the simulation ended, Lyra returned to her dorm quietly. She opened Raxor's pod, and the beast stretched with a low growl. Its eyes glowed softly, and it nudged her hand with a gentle pressure. "They are learning," she said softly. "Not all of them, but some will. And the others? They will learn soon enough." Raxor's low hum was almost a purr, a sign of agreement. Together they were more than a human and a pet. They were a force, a reminder that even those underestimated could rise above expectation. That evening, Lyra studied the Academy maps again, noting where future simulations and exercises might test her. She also began to track the students who had attempted to sabotage her, quietly planning how to stay ahead. Outside, the twin suns set behind the horizon, casting long shadows across the Academy. Lyra gazed at the stars, thinking of Vornax and the countless lessons her world had taught her. Patience, strategy, survival, and the importance of understanding both friend and foe. Somewhere in the galaxy, other species might still doubt humans. But at the Academy, whispers were spreading. The girl from the tiny death world had survived a challenge that none of the aliens could manage. Lyra smiled faintly. This was only the beginning. Tomorrow would bring new tests, new hazards, and new opportunities to demonstrate that humans, even from a world dismissed as weak, could overcome any challenge. And somewhere, deep within the Academy, a few students began to worry. If humans could survive this, what else could they do? Lyra closed her eyes beside Raxor, ready to rest. The challenges ahead were greater, but so was her determination. Together, they would continue to show the galaxy that humans were a force not to be underestimated. The next morning, the Academy grounds buzzed with energy. Today was not a regular exercise. It was a public challenge. A test of skill and courage in front of instructors, dignitaries, and students from multiple worlds. The goal was simple: navigate the obstacle course, retrieve the energy core, and reach the finish line. The twist? Opposing teams were allowed to block or hinder each other. Lyra adjusted her satchel and checked Raxor's containment pod. The beast stirred slightly, aware of the heightened tension. Lyra's dark eyes scanned the grounds, noting positions, obstacles, and potential threats. Her alien classmates eyed her with renewed curiosity and lingering doubt. The serpentine alien from before slithered close, a smug grin on his face. "Let's see if the human girl can survive this," he hissed. "I will personally make sure she fails." Lyra ignored him. Words held little weight. Actions, however, spoke loudly. She had learned that the galaxy respected results, not threats. The starting horn sounded and teams surged forward. Lyra moved calmly, observing her environment. Her strategy relied not on raw power but on adaptability, awareness, and timing, skills honed on her death world, Vornax. The first obstacle was a series of swinging barriers. Alien students lunged forward recklessly, some colliding with the barriers, others miscalculating timing and falling behind. Lyra counted the swings, leapt with precise timing, and passed through without incident. Next was a narrow platform above a pit filled with simulated lava. The serpentine alien advanced quickly, attempting to intimidate Lyra by blocking her path. "Step aside, human," he sneered. "This is not a place for your kind." Lyra froze briefly, then smiled faintly. "If you insist," she said, and activated a subtle device in her satchel. It projected a faint holographic decoy of herself to the left. The serpentine alien lunged at the decoy, and Lyra used the moment to advance safely across the platform. Nearby, other students murmured in disbelief. "Humans. So clever," one whispered. As they approached the central obstacle, a group of aggressive alien students moved to block Lyra directly. They surrounded her, attempting to push her off balance. Her hand instinctively rested on Raxor's containment pod. "Not now," she whispered. Raxor sensed the rising threat. The pod vibrated gently, warning of the beast's readiness. Lyra assessed the situation. The aliens were stronger and faster than her individually, but together they underestimated her strategy. She needed to act, but without revealing Raxor completely. At least not yet. The aliens lunged simultaneously. Lyra sidestepped, using their momentum against them. But a heavy alien grabbed her satchel. She felt the energy core shift dangerously. That was when Raxor intervened. The containment pod hissed softly. Then the reinforced shields flared with a burst of energy. Raxor's massive form materialized briefly, its glowing eyes filling the narrow corridor. It did not attack blindly. It simply blocked the alien's path, standing like a wall of muscle and instinctive power. The aliens froze, shocked by the sudden appearance of the beast. Lyra moved calmly behind Raxor, guiding her team past the obstacle. The aliens hesitated, unwilling to confront the creature directly. Raxor's growl was low, warning yet controlled, a clear signal that it could act if threatened further. "Move," Lyra commanded softly, and her team followed through, inspired by her calm presence and the subtle, overwhelming force of Raxor. The course became increasingly complex. Swinging chains, retractable walls, and energy barriers tested their agility and strategy. Lyra's leadership shone. She directed her teammates with clear instructions, combining quick thinking with precise timing. Every obstacle was approached methodically, with humans' characteristic adaptability taking the lead. The serpentine alien tried again to confront her directly, but Raxor's imposing presence forced him to reconsider. He faltered, and Lyra's team moved past him efficiently, maintaining balance and control. Finally, they reached the central tower. The energy core gleamed softly, guarded by a series of mechanical drones. The aliens attempted to attack, but Lyra anticipated the drone patterns and moved carefully. Her team followed her lead, disabling the drones with precision energy pulses rather than reckless attacks. As Lyra retrieved the energy core, one of the more aggressive alien students attempted a final block. Raxor stepped forward once more, its sheer size and intelligence causing the alien to hesitate. The beast did not strike. It simply moved, creating an unbreakable barrier between Lyra and danger. Lyra adjusted her grip on the energy core and signaled her team. They advanced past the remaining obstacles with coordinated precision, reaching the finish line safely. Professor Therym's voice rang through the grounds. "Lyra Vornax and her team have completed the course with exceptional skill and strategy. The human student has not only demonstrated intelligence and adaptability, but has also shown leadership under pressure." The alien students who had mocked her in the morning stared in disbelief. Their assumptions about humans were shattered. The whispers spread quickly. The girl from the tiny death world had not only survived but had excelled, guiding her team through impossible obstacles and subtly controlling the threat of her pet beast. The serpentine alien's expression was unreadable. Pride, fear, and disbelief mixed in his gaze. The floating sphere buzzed excitedly, clearly impressed. "I did not expect this," it admitted. Lyra did not celebrate. She understood that today's victory was not the end but a signal. A small reminder to the galaxy that humans could not be underestimated. Raxor, now calm, returned briefly to its pod, its glowing eyes dimming but still alert. As the crowd dispersed, Lyra walked quietly through the academy corridors. Students whispered behind her back, some cautiously respectful, others still skeptical but clearly reconsidering their previous assumptions. In her dorm, Lyra removed Raxor from the containment pod completely for the first time since arrival. The beast stretched, muscles rippling, eyes glowing with intelligent awareness. "You were perfect," Lyra said softly, controlled, calm, and powerful. They saw enough to understand. Not all of them, but enough to start questioning what they thought they knew. Raxor nudged her hand gently, a silent affirmation of their partnership. Together, they were not just student and pet. They were a living example of survival, strategy, and the underestimated strength of humans. Lyra sat beside Raxor, studying maps of the academy grounds and possible future exercises. She knew challenges would only grow more difficult, but so would her experience and control. Each test, each encounter was an opportunity to demonstrate that humans, even from a world dismissed as weak, were adaptable, clever, and courageous. Outside, the twin suns dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows and painting the sky in hues of gold and crimson. Somewhere in the galaxy, whispers of the tiny death world girl were spreading. Her classmates had begun to understand. Humans were not fragile. Humans were cunning, resilient, and dangerous in ways that others could not always predict. Lyra smiled faintly, resting a hand on Raxor. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new obstacles, and new tests. But they were ready. Together, human and beast, they would continue to show the galaxy that underestimating them was a mistake no one could afford. And somewhere, deep in the academy, a few students began to realize that the lessons of Vornax, survival, intelligence, and courage were far more than stories. They were a promise. Humans could endure, adapt, and triumph where others would fail. Lyra closed her eyes, letting the quiet hum of Raxor fill the room. The next day would be harder. But with patience, strategy, and careful control of her secret companion, she knew she could face any challenge. The galaxy might still doubt her kind, but Lyra was certain the truth of human strength would be revealed one calculated action at a time. The academy auditorium was buzzing with excitement. Today, the instructors would announce the results of the week's challenges and recognize the most outstanding students. Dignitaries from across the galaxy had gathered, their glowing robes and intricate uniforms reflecting the bright lights of the hall. Students of all species filled the seats, some eager, some anxious, all curious. Lyra walked in quietly, her dark eyes scanning the room. She felt calm, confident, and ready. Beside her, Raxor's containment pod rested silently. The beast's energy hummed faintly beneath the surface, a subtle reminder of the strength hidden just beyond sight. Whispers followed her as she moved. The serpentine alien who had mocked her since day one glanced at her with unreadable emotion. The floating sphere buzzed softly, clearly still impressed, while the rock-like alien simply observed, nodding slightly in respect. Students, instructors, and guests. Professor Tharum's voice echoed across the auditorium. "This week has been extraordinary. Challenges were designed to test intelligence, courage, teamwork, and adaptability. One student in particular has shown exceptional skill, strategy, and leadership under pressure." The audience turned their attention to Lyra. Her classmates' earlier doubts and mockery were replaced with surprise and curiosity. The serpentine alien's jaw tightened as the professor continued. Lyra Vornax, from the so-called tiny death world, has not only survived each challenge but has excelled, demonstrating humans' unique ability to adapt, observe, and act under pressure. She has led her team with intelligence and precision, proving that humans are a force to be respected in this academy and beyond. The hall erupted in a mix of applause, whispers, and gasps. Some students clapped cautiously, others with genuine admiration. Even the aliens who had doubted her abilities could not hide their respect. Lyra walked forward to receive her recognition. She did not smile broadly or boast. She simply nodded politely, her calm demeanor commanding attention. Raxor's containment pod followed beside her, a quiet but imposing presence. The beast's subtle energy made a few nearby students step back instinctively. Professor Therum handed her a ceremonial medallion, a symbol of achievement and leadership. "This is for courage, strategy, and adaptability," he said. "A reminder that strength is not always measured in power or size, but in the mind, the spirit, and the ability to survive where others would fail." Lyra accepted the medallion with a simple nod. "Thank you, Professor," she said softly. Her words were quiet, yet they carried weight. The audience was captivated. Many students whispered among themselves. "She is different," one murmur went. "Humans, we underestimated them." Even the serpentine alien could not argue. He stepped aside silently, his arrogance replaced by grudging respect. The floating sphere buzzed excitedly, unable to contain its fascination. I never imagined humans could think and act like this," it said aloud. As the recognition ceremony continued, Lyra's classmates began to approach her. Some, previously mocking, now offered quiet words of admiration. Others simply nodded, acknowledging her skill and leadership. After the ceremony, Lyra returned to her dorm with Raxor. She opened the containment pod fully, allowing the beast to stretch its massive, muscular body. Its eyes glowed softly, intelligent and alert. "You were perfect," Lyra whispered, controlled, calm, and precise. Today they saw enough to understand. Not all, but enough. Raxor nudged her hand gently, a silent affirmation. On Vornax, strength was not about dominance, but about control, awareness, and survival. Lyra and her beast embodied that lesson perfectly. Later that evening, Lyra reflected on the events of the past week. From the first day at the academy, when she had been mocked for her origin, to now when students and instructors alike recognized her abilities, she had remained calm, strategic, and observant. Each challenge had tested her in different ways, and each time humans' unique combination of intelligence and adaptability had proven superior. She also thought about her homeworld. Vornax was small, harsh, and often dismissed by the galaxy, but it had taught its people lessons no advanced civilization could easily forget. Patience, strategy, resourcefulness, and the courage to act decisively when needed. Those lessons had carried her through every trial at the academy. A soft vibration from Raxor reminded her of the silent bond between them. "We are stronger together," she whispered. "Not because we are the fastest or the strongest, but because we understand, plan, and act with precision." Outside, the twin suns had set, and the stars of the galaxy twinkled in quiet brilliance. Somewhere far away, other civilizations might still underestimate humans, but at the academy the story of the tiny DEATHWORLD girl had spread. Humans were no longer just curious anomalies, they were cunning, courageous, and adaptable beings capable of great accomplishments. Over the next few days, Lyra continued to participate in exercises, her reputation preceding her. Classmates approached her with cautious respect, sometimes seeking her advice, other times merely observing her strategies. Even the instructors looked to her for guidance, recognizing that humans' approach to challenges was uniquely effective. The serpentine alien, once her fiercest critic, began to study her methods quietly, occasionally nodding in approval. The floating sphere buzzed constantly with excitement, clearly eager to learn from her strategies. And the rock-like alien, steady and observant, offered quiet words of encouragement, a rare gesture of admiration among its kind. Lyra's success was not just personal, it was symbolic. Humans, often underestimated by the galaxy, could survive, adapt, and triumph in ways others could not. Every challenge she faced, every strategy she applied, was a reminder that strength came in many forms and that intelligence, patience, and courage were forces that could not be ignored. One evening, as she prepared for rest, Lyra looked out at the academy grounds. Students from many worlds were training, competing, and learning, yet whispers of her recent achievements floated through the air. Some spoke in awe, others in doubt, but all recognized a simple truth. Humans were not to be underestimated. Raxor stirred beside her, its glowing eyes reflecting the starlight. "We have made our mark," Lyra said softly. "Not with brute force, but with patience, strategy, and understanding. The galaxy will remember that." She closed her eyes, letting the quiet hum of her companion fill the room. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new lessons, and new opportunities to demonstrate humans' unique strength. But for now, Lyra allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. Her journey at the Academy had begun with doubt and mockery, but it had evolved into recognition and respect. Humans, even from a tiny death world, had proven themselves capable of extraordinary feats. And Lyra, with Raxor at her side, would continue to show the galaxy that underestimating humans was a mistake no one could afford to make. The stars outside shone brightly, reflecting a galaxy filled with challenges, opportunities, and the promise of adventure. Lyra smiled faintly. The Academy was only the beginning. One day humans would leave their mark across the stars, not with intimidation or conquest, but with intelligence, courage, and an unwavering determination to survive and thrive. And somewhere in the audience, those who had doubted her now thought differently. Respect had been earned not through fear but through excellence. Lyra's story and the quiet strength of Raxor would inspire others, humans and aliens alike, to recognize that true power often lay hidden, waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. Lyra lay down beside Raxor, feeling the steady warmth and energy of her companion. Together, they had faced mockery, danger, and challenge, and they had prevailed. The galaxy might still doubt humans, but now, at least in this corner of the stars, the truth was clear. Humans were resilient, cunning, and remarkable, and Lyra, from the tiny death world, had shown them all exactly why.